CSR or client-side rendering pages are single-page applications, right? Single-page application means they are technically one, not technically, they are really one page, HTML page, like index.html. Even though we have some routes, okay, you go to details page, you go about this page, they are just logical, not real pages. In case of static pages, they are real pages, like contextual, contact us page, about us page. They are real pages, but here they are not real. They are just logical. We are just taking it. We showing you that okay, this is about us page. This is contact us page. We are just displaying it, and we are generating that page on the fly on the client side. Drawback is these pages, since this is in the same HTML page, they cannot be search engine optimized. And since this client-side application or a single-page application got very much popular, and people started creating lot of applications and started building bigger applications, the applications became heavier in weight, heavier in size, not in kilograms, but grams, in bytes. Okay, in kilobytes. In memory size, it started taking more memory and not RAM, the actual physical memory. So, what problem it caused? So, when we want to generate our client-side page, like a single-page application, so it needs all those JS files to be downloaded first. Okay, then it will display your pages. That's what's happening in nowadays in a lot of development. When the applications start growing, it becomes slow. Why? Because in order to that code, like if you are working in Angular or React, if your React library needs to generate a page, first that library has to be there in the browser, right? So how it will be there? We have a JavaScript build. When we build that JavaScript has to be downloaded to the browser. Then it will start working on. Then it will start building these things. Okay. So all these things take time. Downloading the JavaScript, then rendering it. Okay. Bootstrapping. Bootstrap means not the Bootstrap CSS, the designing one. Bootstrap, when you say bootstrapping an application, means your library after getting downloaded becomes active. Like you hatch an egg, then from that egg, that chicken comes out, right? So that's it. So your application gets downloaded, then it becomes active. It starts working. We bootstrap it. It starts your application within the browser. So that process takes time. That's why people again started having problems. Then this hybrid things came into picture, which is like because we have already created so many applications using single-page application technologies, Angular, React, Vue, Svelte. We right now we can't go back to something else. Again, we have to read out all those applications. Right? We have spent so many years building that application, and we know that it's having some performance issue, but that doesn't mean we'll discard it and we'll create something from scratch, which will cost money and time, right? So that's why people started coming with like how we can enhance this. We will still use our libraries, the technologies we are using, but we will try to improve the performance. How? So then all those things started, and this hybrid rendering also came into picture. So what is hybrid? We all already discussed about it. Like mostly what this technology, not technology, the hybrid rendering tells about is to generate the pages statically. Okay. So what we do, we will go back to again this static pages, but using these libraries. Okay. We'll still use Angular and React, but we'll generate something static so that the loading time, the user experience time, that gets improved. Okay. We'll still be using our technology, what we are good at, Angular or React or Vue, but we will be generating those things. Okay. So some static content so that user when he accesses that gets loaded very fast. So that is called static site generation. Also, we call it pre-rendering. Okay, pre-rendering means we are rendering the application before, not during the client when we load the application. Not that time, we are doing it before. So that's why we call it pre-render. Okay, pre-rendered SSG or server side, sorry, static side generation are mostly same thing. So last time we talked mostly about, so this is the core thing we want to discuss. We talked about how we can achieve those things using React technologies, right? So, but all of you are not working in React. Some of you are working on React, some of you are working in Angular. So last session was mostly on React-based solution. Today we'll discuss about Angular-based solution, how we can achieve same things using Angular technologies. Okay. So anyone can tell me what are the technologies we used in last session for React? Correct. Next is
Remix run.
Remix run, kind of. The full stack library. Anyone else? Okay. So the
Snap.
React Snap was library used, but yeah, that is also the same thing. Anyone else? There's something called Gatsby.js. So Gatsby.js also, which is very tough competitor to Next.js. Okay, so all this thing they are used. So this technology stack, so people like technology people they like to term something they call MERN stack. Earlier when there was a PHP for they used to call LAMP stack, WAMP stack. So they like to term those things. LAMP is like Linux, Apache, and not Mongo, but I forgot that. And PH for PHP. M for MySQL. Okay, that is LAMP. WAMP is Windows, and that A is same. Then again, MERN means Mongo, Express, React. Okay, so these kind of so these static site generation concept they call it Jamstack. Okay, so there are backend technologies which help for this thing, and for front end React has Next.js or Gatsby, and Angular has something which I'll talk about, and there are like Jelly or a lot of other technologies are there, like from Python and Ruby. They have all have some libraries which gives you this static site generation. Okay, and if you go and search about Jamstack, you will find a lot of libraries doing that. Okay, so we'll talk about mostly for Angular, how we will be doing these things in Angular. So in Angular, improving the front end performance in terms of rendering and serving, there may be many. I found these three, okay, which I can discuss about today. Okay. Mostly these three are being used right now. One is App Shell, okay. Next is Scully, and another is pre-render. It's not a library. Okay. It's just within the Angular. So, anyone knows about App Shell or heard about it? Okay. Anyone? I think. Okay. Mostly experienced Angular developers didn't join. I was expecting answers from them. Okay. Anyone? App Shell? So App Shell is like shell of your entire application. Okay. So this is inbuilt to Angular. don't need to install any other third party. You can achieve that using Angular thing, but Angular, like before that, I'll tell you what is app shell. So app shell is when we load our application, like I said earlier or last session also, I showed how it takes time and your screen is blank till all the JavaScript, CSS, everything gets downloaded, screen is blank, then we see some feature, right? So it's not completely about pre-rendering like we did using Next.js. Okay. App shell is, it will render some part of your application, okay, to the user when the browser is loading other JavaScript CSS files. Okay, so it will show some part of your application which is not dynamic, that they are static in nature. So that this is just give a perspective to the user that the site is fast, because as soon as they log into your site, they see something instead of a blank screen. They see something, and what can be those something? It can be your header, it can be your footer, it can be your site navbar. Okay, so basically it's the structure of your application, the layout. Okay, not the data. So as soon as you load your application, it starts rendering all those things. So you can generate this app shell using Angular. You can go to Angular documentation and it provides the link, how the commands, how can you add an app shell to your application. So this is helpful, but not completely like re-rendering. It's sometimes like you have a login screen or something like that. Okay, you want to render some part of it. Okay, in that case you can use app shell, but you cannot get the other things we have been talking about, like search engine optimization, like static caching of the application. You cannot get those features. This is just like you don't want to make a lot of modification to your existing application, but instead of a blank screen, I want to show something. You can use app shell, so that it will generate a shell component, and within that shell component, whatever you write, it can be displayed until your entire application gets. This is one, app shell. Next is Scully. Scully is a third-party library, okay, which is used to generate static sites using Angular. Like we have Next.js, Gatsby. Angular didn't have anything earlier. So Scully, they are a different, not built into Angular. They are just a separate library. You have to add that package to your application, and you have to follow their steps. Okay, and then you can render your application. It will generate your static sites. Okay, and you can host them, and you can get that static generation. I was actually going to do this demo today using Scully, but then when I was researching, I found something called pre-render, which is inbuilt Angular. I thought if there is something which is inbuilt in the technology which you are using, why will go for a third party, right? So, and other reason I will be giving a demo on pre-render is it will not. So the setup process in Scully is little bit complicated, because what it does is it creates a headless browser kind of thing. When you start building your static pages, it creates a hidden browser and renders all your pages internally. Okay, like you are doing manually. You went to index.page. You built your application, right? Now you went to your browser, localhost 14, you got an HTML page, right? And what you do, you right click, you copy the HTML page, right? You go to view source, get the HTML code and save it in a file. We can still render that page, right? So Scully works on that basis. It does all those things internally, okay, using commands. So when you run that Scully command, it opens the there are some headless browsers. Earlier, there was some, now they're using Puppet or something. They changed recent version. But the logic is same. They're using a internal headless browser, rendering your pages and getting those pages and writing it to files. So that when in the output you get only HTML and CSS files. That's what they are doing. Understood? Or any doubts? Because I have been speaking continuously for some time. Anyone have a doubt? Query? Question? All clear so far? Okay. So that's the principle of sculpture. And so that headless browser also had some issue if you are building on Mac. We have there will be some problem because of M1G. Now they fixed that, but in Windows or Linux, there are different libraries which those internal because they are installing system like Chrome or Brave or Edge browser. There is some different browser they are installing, which is like invisible. You cannot see it, but that's there. Okay, so that is a heavy item. There are dependencies on that library itself. So that's why I was, I mean, there are some good points about Scully also, but I prefer pre-render as of now for this demo. Okay. So what is pre-render? Pre-render is a command provided by Angular itself. It does the same thing what I have told for Scully. It generates static pages, okay, but using its own command. But for that, what we have to do is we have to enable Angular Universal for our application. Anyone who is working on Angular knows what is Angular Universal? You know? No. So Angular Universal is technology again. So that will enable server-side rendering in your application. So your application currently, whatever we are building your Angular application, that's the client-side application, right? If we want to give some server-side rendering feature, we have to enable Angular Universal. So you'll be using your same application, but you will have to add those packages, Angular packages, and will be enabling your server-side rendering for your application. Now you can host your application in a server, mostly Node.js server. Okay, so yeah, you can host it in a Node.js server so that you can do some server-side code logic. Okay, so Node.js is you guys know about Node.js, what is Node.js? Yes. So yeah. Anyone from online team? Node.js?
Yeah, it's a runtime environment to run JavaScript outside of the browser.
Right. A lot of people the way they learn is okay, you have to install Node.js so that you can do npm install. Okay. So if Node.js is JavaScript technology which can leverage to create servers. Okay. So you can write servers. Like in PHP, ASP.NET, we can write our server-side code, which will be like you can write REST APIs using Node.js. Also, you can render HTMLs like websites also can be rendered using Node.js. Okay. There are other libraries for XJS, Sales.js. Yeah, for now I remember all this. Okay, so we have to so Angular Universal will make your application a server-side renderable application. Okay. Once we enable Universal, next what we will do is we will do this pre-render. So pre-render, how it will work behind is it will create a server-side rendering application, like it is hosting something in your server. So because this is all within Angular, not like Scully, it is all within Angular. So Angular knows okay, how this page will be, but is the HTML which is going to be coming out from the server. So it from the server it directly writes it. It doesn't create a browser and access your page within. So within the server, it is rendering that page, right? HTML page. How server side rendering works? We request, we make a request, creates the HTML and sends back, right? Instead of sending back, think about it like it is creating that file. Okay, it is we made a call to index page or about section. It generates that page and writes in the file okay, about.html. It gives it to you so that you can post it. That's how it does a pre-render, which is very fast and quick, I feel. Okay. So everyone got some idea about what is app shell, Scully library, and pre-render command in Angular, right? Any queries? Okay. Okay. So next we will do we'll see some demo because last time some people didn't join. Okay. I don't need this anymore. Okay, this slide will just directly jump into the code. Before that, I'll just show application which I had created. Let me see if it is running. Okay. So local host 8,000. One is 8,000. One is local host 8,001. Okay. So these are same application I have created, but I forgot which one is what. Let me see. Okay. So 8001 is the pre-rendered application. Okay. And this is also same. I guess. 8001. Okay. This is single page application on 8004. Okay. So I have built the production build and I hosted it. I'll just show the demo, then we'll see how we are going to do that in the code. Okay. So I have changed the resolution here for this projector. It looks all big. Okay. So we'll do the same thing. We'll disable all the previous cache, thanks to Shruti's language training program. Okay. we'll change it to the throttling to a fast 3G. This one also will do the same so that we'll just compare it. Okay. Okay, so this is client side rendering. So we'll clear it. Well, I didn't clear it. Blank page. Now we'll do localhost 8001. Okay, so this is server rendering or client rendering. Yeah, not server rendering, actually static side. This is static side. Okay, so 8001 static side. I accessed and I'll do local host 8000. Okay. It's too small. The resolution here is too small. It's not fitting everything.
Now I can see something. Okay, so it took around 5 seconds. DOM content loaded in 4 seconds. Here it is also same. But I'll show you. Actually, I wanted to show side by side, but because of this resolution, I'm not able to do that. We'll do it again. Okay. So we'll do it again. We'll just reload it this time. And this here also will reload it. Okay, you will not see the difference here. So we'll do a performance reload. Okay. Oh. Start profiling. Comments. Just reload it. Okay. Not able to drag it out. See, this screen was already rendered when we made a request. It went blank. Okay, it went blank till here. Then all the resources were downloaded. Okay, we are getting. Let me see if we can reduce. Okay, it will just reduce the size of the browser, not this screen. Just drag it. Okay. So something around 4 seconds, it started. Okay, so here you see DOM content loaded. So all the data loaded. Then you see the first paint. Something came to the browser, some content it showed. First contentful paint is like some additional screen data was displayed, and largest contentful paint means it did a lot of layout shift, like lot of screen content was displayed that time. Okay, so this is the event you are seeing here. All the data was loaded. Then we are seeing after some second, we are seeing the content. So if we do look at this thing, I'm not able to get it. Okay, see here we get the first contentful payment. Sorry, paint. It's first today, right? So payment thing is coming into mind. Okay, first of the month. Okay. So very initially we get the first contentful paint, not payment, paint. Okay, then largest paint also we get very initially. So when we made the request, when we received the HTML itself, so here we got the document loaded. Okay, first page. Then it started. So this is the document. Then once the document gets loaded, it starts fetching the resources like CSS, JavaScript, all those things are loaded. Once the HTML is rendered. So by the time we got the HTML itself, we got the first paint. We didn't wait for this long to get displays you something. Then we get this DOM content loaded event. Okay, so I think because I choose fast 3G, you are not able to distinguish it. So we'll choose this time slow 3G. Okay, then we'll see how it behaves. This one also slow 3G. Okay, so this time I will reload this page first. Okay, then I'll reload this page. You're not seeing any difference here because we are getting the document itself on the initial request. So when we go to the DevTools, this is for 8000 port. This is for the 8001 port. I didn't plan for this small screen, so I'm having some problem. Okay, so with after 2 seconds when this HTML was rendered, if you see the preview, we get a lot of data here. But here, when we got the HTML, preview, it's a blank screen. That's why we are seeing the blank screen. Here, we are getting the HTML and the CSS all together. I'll show you this one again. Blank. I'll move this to bottom, not this one. Okay, open this one. Localhost 8001. See, we saw the page now. Okay, now it is fetching all those resources. Still fetching all those resources, but I don't know why these resource names are not coming because of the screen size, or I choose something here. So these are all requests actually. I was able to see all those things earlier. I don't know. So you guys are able to understand, right? So when we made the request itself, we were able to see the HTML. Then it started loading those JavaScripts. But what happens in the other case? Is will reload, or I should, okay. See, it's now loading the resources first. Till now, we are not seeing the data or not seeing the content because it is still loading all the JavaScript, CSS, everything. Okay, that's why we are still seeing the blank page. Are you guys able to distinguish the difference from the online team?
Yes.
Anyone? Kamal? Kamal, did you say something? Not able to hear. Okay. Anyone else? Deep Kiran, did you get the things? I don't know. Everyone is like mute. Okay, then we'll jump into the code now. Okay, how we are going to do all those things, how we'll be able to do the pre-rendering. Okay. So this is application actually I took. Let me see if I can show you, because This one has some more screens also. If we go to this login screen. So 1001. 1000. Okay. Okay. We'll just jump into the code. Okay. Okay. So what we'll do for this part was like I have downloaded a Angular tour of heroes already built in like built project from Angular site because I'm not too much, little lazy. Okay, so to create all those things, um, I'll add that to this project. Okay, this is a zip which gets created, and I'll just put it here. Okay, this is the one I will rename. To Heroes app. And so when I was trying with this application, there was some issue with the dependencies. So the dependencies, it comes by default with some Angular version, which are actually outdated. So I had a backup of those things. I'll just upgrade them. So we need RxJS 7.5.5 so that the current all Angular versions the CLI I have, it works with that. So we need to upgrade that. And we have to upgrade but something else, this Jasmine marbles. And one more thing, which once we run it, it will tell us what is the error. Okay. We'll close this, we'll close this, we'll close this also. I guess we need to upgrade something else, this one. Yeah, this needs to be 14. Okay, let's try. Okay, Angular needs 16.0, so I'll use Node 16.0. I use NVM so that in NV, if you are working in different projects, which has different kind of node dependencies. Okay, one project you need 14, one project you need 15. What to do? You can install NVM and you can use any version of node using that. Okay. So for this one, we need 16.10. It says we have to use only these two. So I'll use 16.10. Okay, so this is a no Angular app project which I downloaded with the source code. We need to do what we need to do first when we check out a project. Anyone? npm install. That's right. Okay. Okay, congratulations, our NPM install was successful. So now we'll test it. I forgot Angular. So can anyone tell me how can I run this application? NG? Yes. Okay. Okay. Hmm. So what is the difference between NG serve and NG build? Sorry?
Building the models for our application and running the application.
Which command?
NC build the application. NC serve it like run the.
So that is the just translation you are saying is serve will serve the application.
All the building models like load models will be
In NG serve it will not be built.
like they will run the application.
Doesn't
If we do NPM and stuff, it will build the load model. After that, it will run the.
No, if see when you are learning now, you guys are interns, so when you're learning, you also learn these concepts. NPM installs the packages which are hosted in NPM repository. Okay, so it downloads them and installs them. It checks all those dependencies and creates a tree and installs them. Angular build does a build so that see the output we get in our front-end application is HTML, JS, and CSS. That's it, right? These are the three things. In order to be able to other people access it, we have to host it. Okay. And the way we test it in our local also, we have to host it somewhere. So ng-serve, what it does, it builds and does a serve, like it hosts in a very small server kind of. It is not meant for production builds, not fast, just for testing. And also it integrates because ng-serve by default is does a development build. So what it does, it enables hot reload or hot refresh, right? So you make some change, it reloads. But if you do an Angular build, it just gives you an output. Okay, it builds everything and it optimizes it, minifies it, everything it does in a production build, and it gives you the output HTML, JS, and CSS. You have to host it in a separate server so that you can test it. ng-build will not give you the it will not serve you. It will give you just the output. You have to put it in any server. Since it's just HTML, JS, and CSS, we can host it in Node server, we can host it in PHP server, we can host it in Apache, anyway. Okay. So this one will just, it's the development live server. Live server means any changes we are making, we will be able to see. Okay. Coming back to the reason we are talking today. So we'll just test it. Localhost 0. So this is the project which I downloaded from the angular.io itself. It has some heroes and we can search something. Okay. We can go to that hero details. We can go to heroes. Okay. So everything is working, right? So our application is fine as of now, but this is a client side rendered application. Okay, the way we have been doing our Angular application so far. Okay, so before we jump into just a minute, before we jumped into the converting into SSG or generating the pre-rendered site, we'll add a backend to it. Okay, so that we know some because all our application will be connecting to backend APIs, right? We will not have any static side. So that's why I thought we should integrate some backend API That will give us some real-time experience how it behaves. So for that, okay. So this code, which I downloaded, it uses Angular in-memory web API. So what it does, it simulates the web API. So we are calling heroes list, or we are clicking on a hero, it gives the details. For all this API data, it simulates. There is no API actually, backend API. So how they are doing it is, it's too small area. App module. They have integrated this one, HTTP client in memory web API. So we have to comment it. We don't need it. We'll make actual API call. And I have already set up a backend API. Okay, I have to run it. Okay, so it is running on 3000 port. Okay, it has that heroes API. Okay. So we have to make a change so that this is a hero service where we are using this. Okay, so it should be localhost colon 3000. This is where our backend API is running. Okay, so now it will be connecting from there. Before I save it, I'll just show you that when we navigate heroes or some other place, we don't see any API call there. Okay. Now I have added it. Just to see the request, just I'll drag it to the screen. Okay. Now we have added this 404, it is getting. So once we save it, sorry. This is not going beyond this. Very small place. Okay, now there is a heroes API call which is being made. Okay, and since we are working, we'll now no more doing this slow 3G. We want fast results. Okay. So now it is making a request to this heroes API. Okay. This is the endpoint. Okay. So now our application is connected to the actual backend. Earlier it was a in-memory web API, which was provided by some package. So that means there was no need of any backend server. It will kind of simulate it. Like you know about interceptor, right? HTTP interceptor. So which takes your request, does something and returns it back. So that module works on that concept, and there is, because there was no backend API actually, right? Now we have connected into a backend API so that we see this request, what we are getting here. Okay. how many requests we are making, all those things. Okay. Now our application is built. So what we will do is we'll go back. We'll do a build here. PM now, actually. Okay, it already built. So when you do an Angular build, you get that build in this dist folder. Okay. So all our HTML, CSS, whatever we got as output, we get it here, this dist folder. And this dist folder has to be hosted in a server. It can be Apache, Nginx, PHP, IIS, anywhere we can host it. So this is the content we have to host it, index.html, and there are all those JavaScript files and CSS files. This is our whole application. When most of you work and you just commit your code, but this is what happens when we build it and host it in any of our dev server or QA server. We make a build and we host it. Okay. Since we'll be doing so, we'll be using same code to generate our server side rendering also, like pre-rendering code. So what I'll do, I'll just rename this dist folder so that we have a backup of our client side rendered build. Okay, so we'll compare both build, right? So we'll have a backup. I'll call it as a CSR. So that this is here. I don't want any update import. So this is here. When we do a build next time, it will actually create another dist folder. If I don't do this, it will rewrite the previous dist. So either I can copy it, I'll just rename. Okay. Okay. So next we will convert this application to SSR. So so that we have to enable universal, Angular universal for that. How we will do? We'll search Google. This is server-side rendering with Angular. Okay. Okay. Even Google site is not coming properly in this resolution. Fine. Okay. So this is the command we have to use: ng add ng universal express engine. Okay. Copy it. Okay. Just ask us confirmation. We'll say yes. So when we add any package using ng add, what it does, it also updates some of the required files. But if we add any third-party library like just npm install save, it adds it to the package.json but doesn't do anything. You have to do it manually. So what it did, it installed that package and also created some file for us like main server.ts, app server module, tsconfig server.json, server.ts, and updated these packages. Angular JSON, package JSON, main.ts. Okay, so it also updated, it did all those things for us. What changes they did? So these are newly created files. Package JSON, what kind of changes it did? So it added some commands. SSR. If you want to do a server-side rendering for development mode, for serving and testing, and this is for building. Okay. But what we are interested right now is to pre-render. We don't want our application to be server-side rendering because we don't have a requirement as of now, right? But in order to this pre-render to work, we have to add this package, and it also enables this server-side rendering for us. But we don't need it as of now. We just need this pre-render. Okay. So, and also it updated some of other files, main.tas and app.module.tas, so that those like this is not connected to Git. Okay, so this is the change it made. Okay, browser module with server transition. Okay, can go to package.json also. So these are the commands that it added. So after all those things, what we will do, we will check our pre-rendering thing for which we have been talking so much. Run pre-render. Okay. First, it builds it. Okay. Like normal CSR build. Then it does a pre-render to this folder, which is there here. There is one. Okay, so it created that this folder again because we did another build. And here we have two folders now. The structure is different. Earlier we had only this HTML and CSS, web icon, all those things. But now we have a server, which is for server build, which has to be hosted by Node.js server. We don't need it. We need this browser code. Okay. This is the thing. See, earlier, the last one, we had one HTML file and we have all this JS file and CSS file. Okay. This one we have index.html and we have two routes like index heroes and dashboard. So it creates some other HTML also, right? So this is another HTML. This is another HTML. So now what I can do is I can simply host this file and test it. We don't need to run as an Angular project. So I'll simply host it. I use a package called local web server to create a small web server in your local itself. When I am using just let's say I'm testing with some website, static pages, HTML, CSS, right? We have to host it for some like testing some things like JavaScript. There are some conditions from Google Chrome. You cannot test it if you are just so. Technically, you can open a HTML file in a browser, but always you will not get all those features. Sometimes your paths are not relative. If you are opening a plain HTML file in the browser, you will not be able to access some, let's say you are using Google Fonts or something like that, which are hosted in HTTPS. You cannot access them. So you have to host it again. For that, you have to use this kind of, there is this, I use local web server, and there are some other packages, HTTP server or something like that. So for this, the command is WS, just that's it. it starts in that folder itself. So in that folder, any index file, it creates a server in that location itself, and you can, it is actually now accessible. So if you come to, if you open your laptop and you open this IP, because we are all in LAN connected, we are in same internet, you can access my website, okay, from this port using this link. And these are my local links, okay. So we'll test it. It's working. Okay. So this is not Angular ng serve. This is a pre-rendered build we created and we are checking it. If we inspect network, we get the dashboard, we get the content also, right? But in typical Angular application, you will not get, okay, I have stopped this. You will not get this HTML data. You'll get a blank HTML, okay? But here you are getting HTML and also CSS including with that. That's why it will be faster. Okay, but there is something. So if you see, we are again making a heroes request to the HTTP backend server. But technically, what it should happen, this data should be pre-generated, right? That's what we are doing. We are trying to pre-render something. Pre-rendering means we bundle the data, we create the HTML, right? But why it is making this request again? So if we stop our server, let's see what happens. We are not seeing that data, right? But that means it is not pre-generated. It is still fetching the data, right? This is not what we want so far. We want our data to be pre-generated so that we don't make that API request and it will be slow. But if you go to that HTML, you see this data is already there, right? But we are not seeing here. So that means there is some issue. Okay. What will be the issue? Okay, so I'll tell how this thing works in the backend. Okay, in the backend. So when you pre-render, go back to Scully also. So Scully, what it does, it generates the HTML page. That's it. It doesn't do anything. But when this Angular Universal, this server-side rendering application, this concept is a little bit larger. How? So it generates the HTML page so that we don't do it in client side. But after your HTML is loaded by your browser, and then we load all those JavaScript files and all those things, it again bootstraps your application. That means your application becomes Angular application again, not just HTML page. So our last session we did in Next.js static build. Okay, so they also generate two ways. One, completely static page, which if you disable your JavaScript also in your browser, it will work. But we will not, like, our applications are hybrid. We might need some additional content also, right? So in that case, we need our application to be interactive. So that's how Angular treats this way is it sends the HTML pre-generated, sends the JavaScript. Once your JavaScript is loaded, it becomes Angular application again. Before that, it's just plain HTML. So when the Angular application is bootstrapped again, what it does, we have in the component we have written that on init make a call to the Heroes API, right? That's what we do most of the cases. Any component is mounted in React also. We fetch that data. Where it should be in app component. Angular people help me. Not this one, I think in here. Oh, sorry, it's the dashboard, right? So dashboard, it should be here. See. So this is the function which is getting called again. That's why we are making another HTTP request, right? And one more thing. So ng on it, we are calling this request. That is one. And in the HTML, when it bootstrap, we are checking for it. If there is no hero, it will not render. So what server sent is server sent just the HTML with all those data pre-rendered. But when in the client side, Angular application bootstrap itself, like it generates, okay, I have Angular application, then it checks, okay, in template, we need heroes list, but we don't have a heroes list because I stopped the backend. That's right, it is not displaying. Okay. So what is the solution for this? How can we solve it? Any guess? Like just a guess, right? I'm sure you know, like there's a learning. Like I also learned few days back. So just a guess. How we can stop this additional request, because we are generating that list, right? We are getting from HTML. How we can stop additional? Anyone from online?
So if you are making the API request outside of the ng on it call, then you'll be facing the this issue. Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible now?
No, audio actually. Yeah.
I think we can make the initial call in the ng on init method, and we can store the data there, and then we can use the data to display the list elsewhere.
That's what we are already doing.
Yeah.
We are calling it on a engine. So the issue is we already fetched the data. We generated the HTML, but we are again making that. Okay. So what solution I tried was when I was trying this, I tried, okay, here, so Angular provides the way to check if this code, so this is universal, right? It can be run, it can run on server side, it can run on the client side also. So Angular provides a way to identify whether this code is running on the server or client or browser. It provides a way. Now, what we can do with that information? Anyone say anything? Okay. So, okay, what I'll tell what I tried. What I tried was, okay, I said, I am already getting this heroes list in the server, right? Then why to get this data again in the client side? So what I tried was, okay, if the platform is server or browser, don't call it this code. So I stopped this. Is that dashboard component? Okay, so here I put a condition with if condition. Okay, if it is client browser platform, then don't call it. That change I made. For that, I had to do some, again, pass some platform, what is that, service, inject, all those things, which I don't like about Angular, but still I had to do it. But still, it was not a correct solution, because we might need some additional data, like let's say we got some data. Now I want some additional data for next set of data, right? For pagination or infinite scroll Okay, so in that case, we don't know how much data we have got. We just saw just piece of HTML that doesn't give you a data. So that's the problem I was facing with, and I was thinking, hey, then this is not no use. We won't use this period. I will cancel this thing. I will just cancel this taxation because if something is not useful, then what is the need of talking about, right? Then again, I searched about it. Then I found out there is something called HTTP transfer cache. So what it does is the data it pass gets in the server side, it passed to the client side also. So in client side, when you are there, when this piece of code is executed, it will already have that piece of data. Okay, because we fetched it in the server side. Okay, so that side of code is already maintained by the HTTP transfer module. So we'll make use of that. How to do that? Okay, Google. Okay. Angular HTTP transfer. Yes, this one. So this is the step you will find in the Angular repository universal section. Okay, so this talks about what is this transfer HTTP cache module, because so this is we are using it for pre-rendering, but people also use for server side rendering their application also, right? So what they will do if I make some call in the server side, then we are also need that data in the not just HTML, we need the data also in the client side. So what is ideal use cases? We are using this thing to make our application faster performance, right? So let's say I have a list of 100 items. Initial render, I want to show only 5 items or 10 items. What I'll do, I'll use pre-render, I'll call for first 10 items, I'll generate that HTML so that when user comes to our website, they see the instant data, right? Then when they make that next call or pagination or scroll, whatever, we will call, right? Then by that time, our Angular application will be bootstrapped. It will take over and taking charge. Then it will just behave as our Angular application, not like server rendered just a piece of HTML and things, right? So it will actually behave as Angular application. So this transportation HTTP cache, it transferred that whatever it fetched in the server side as same service and all those things, so that we are having the same access to the data, right? So how we are going to do is it's very simple again. We have to use this. Okay. So this is what we have to do in the client side application, which is browser module, but for us it's still app module. So we'll do that here. App module. We'll import it, right? And we'll add it to imports. Okay. Okay, I can change here. Now, the next step is this is for our browser side application. This is for server side. So we have to do some changes for both sides so that that data is also passed here. So we have to in our server module, which was automatically created when we added ng express thing. So it will we have to add this import. This is the server module. We have to import this. I am not getting intelligence. Okay, I should not be that lazy. Okay. Anything else we have to do? Okay, main TS, we have to change platform browser dynamic dot bootstrap module. Okay, change to this DOM. So we have to bootstrap our application after the DOM content is loaded. That's what they are telling. And in the latest Angular application, that is already done. So we don't have to do that. So on DOM content loaded, we are calling bootstrap, which is doing this. So we are already doing that automatically. This when we created this project, which is done. So don't need to do that. We'll test our application again. We can't build it because we are listening. We have created a node server inside that folder. This one within the dist browser. So we have to delete this, or else this dist will not be read. We cannot write to it. When we run this command, it will try to write that file, and that directory is already in use, so we can't do that. So we have to delete that terminal, or just we have to do cd dot dot to go back. Okay, now we have this. Okay, we got an error because, well, it was generating our server side page. I stopped the backend server. That's why it tried to fetch that data and generate that HTML on the server itself, but it couldn't because I stopped the backend server. So I have to start. So when we do this, we'll see our server is making a request here. See, not 1, 2, 3 requests, because there are other pages also which calls this endpoint. So our HTML is generated. This one, browser, dashboard, heroes. Okay. So now we'll again test it. And we'll just reload it. Now see, there is no heroes call. Earlier we saw that heroes call, right? Now we don't have that heroes call because that data was fetched in the server, and that is also passed down to our service. So service knows we have that heroes data, right? So that's why we don't have, we are not making that call. So that duplicate call is no more made. Okay. The way I was thinking, okay, I'll do, okay, if it is browser, then don't make the call. But that is not a viable solution. If we have 10 pages, so we have to do that checking in all the page, right? Okay, if it is pre-rendered, then don't do this. But when we are using that module, it does it automatically for us. Not only that, it also gives us that state. So that let's say if this is a list and we have a next and previous button, we want to fetch next, so that will make another call, right? So that data is already there in our Angular application as a application, not just a HTML thing, right? So now we have done this. So this is the HTML pre-rendered page. We can go to heroes page. So these are all HTML page. We can reload it. Okay. And it's fast because the data is already pre-generated. Okay, see, all this list of the data is already pre-generated in the HTML itself. Okay. Now what we'll do, we'll just compare with the previous one, which we created a backup here. We will host this. Okay, so our Angular applications or React application, when we do a build, it generates one HTML file and JavaScript file, generally, not pre-rendering concept. Normally, when we do a build, it creates like that. So when we host it, what we have to do, so here, if you see, I just run this command WS and started a server. So any file in that, we can simply access it. But our single page application doesn't work like that. Okay, so if we have a dashboard page, okay, so the pre-generated one has a dashboard folder. Inside that it has the index.html. But this client-side generated page doesn't have a dashboard page, doesn't have a heroes page. So the way we host it in any server is maybe IIS or Nginx or Apache. We do some additional configuration. The configuration is we get any request for any routes, we pass it back to our index.html. That's the server configuration we do. That's why I'll run a separate command for here. So this is a SPA. Okay, I'll stop it here. I'll stop this one. Just start SPA and index.html. This is configuration for this server I am using. For other servers, you have to do some additional thing. Okay. So our server is ready. And we have to run this in a separate port. I'll just try port. Okay. See, I have already done it. Okay, now 8000 is the client-side rendering application and 8001 is static site generation. Okay. I thought I'll be able to do those comparing very easier, but because of the screen resolution, it's become a little challenging. Okay. Okay, so this is the client side one, 8000. If you see, the page doesn't have anything. It's a blank page. Okay, but if you see this one, reload it. It comes to dashboard page, which has a lot of information with that. That's why user sees something. Okay, so we will do same thing again. We'll do slow 3G. This one also. We'll do some slow 3G. Okay, we'll go to blank screen. No, we'll just reload now. As of now, we'll do that test later. Okay, I made a request to that first. Then I am making another request to this one. See, you saw that flash. That means our HTML is loaded. Now it is loading this request like this JS, this CSS is still loading, but we are seeing the content, right? We are able to see the content while our data is getting loaded in the background. But what happens here? I'll show you. It went blank. Now it is loading. It is loading. It is loading. Still now our JS is getting loaded. Okay, our data is not loaded yet. We got the data. Then we are showing this. You're seeing the difference. Why we are talking about this thing so much, why this performance matters. It's still the same code. If you see, it's the same code, right? I created a build out of it. Then I just added what is that? Angular universal. Then I did that pre-rendering concept. That's it. I didn't do. So if inside your application app, whatever the components you write, all those codes still there, right? If it is a very big application also, it's still there. Just the way we are rendering it is different. It is very different. If you just see, if it is a slow internet, the user has to wait till everything gets loaded. We are now see till this point our application was loaded here. It completed the Angular at this moment. Then it made a request. When Angular application is loaded, then the component is mounted. Then it made a request to the Heroes API in the backend. And for this one, there is no Heroes backend request itself. If it makes also, it made in the server itself and it built, right? So that's why we see it very fast. We got the data, we got the HTML now. Now it is in the background, it is loading this JS. But we are seeing that we already saw the HTML content, right? We can test in performance insights. Okay, we'll also test here. Slow 3G. Okay. Okay. I thought I'll show this, but this is very difficult to show here in this very small screen. Okay, see, it was blank here. Then we got the data, right? After that, it loaded other things. We got the first paint here. Then it started loading other things. Okay, and everything completed here. Now, if we do the same thing here, we go the performance insight, we reload the page. This is a new feature came to Google Chrome browser. You can use it. There is earlier we used to use Lighthouse. Lighthouse also you can use. But this one I like it the way the representation it gives us. Okay. See, here it got the this. It was empty. It was empty. It was empty. It was empty. Okay, it got some data here, HTML, right? Then CSS was loaded. Then it got this data. Then the loading was complete. The user was able to see the entire screen here at this moment, right? But in this case, the user was seeing the entire content here. Got my point? From online team, did you guys understood what I have been trying to say, all those things?
Yes, Kishore.
Again, Deep Kiran is saying I'm not able to hear. They should have connected. Yes, I can. You saying something?
No, I think, yeah, we understood what you were trying to say. Like the FCP and the LCP has improved a lot in the first case. Right? Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Kamal Kiran, Tapashwini.
But I think the interaction would still be an issue, right? Even if the user is able to see the page immediately in under 2 seconds, but he won't be able, I mean, the user won't be able to interact with the page, right?
Yes.
Because the JavaScripts are still getting loaded.
Yes, I was coming to that point. Okay. So Deep Kiran actually raised a very correct point. So what happens is if I showed you correctly, you can see our HTML content is visible, but JavaScript is not loaded, right? So we did this network. Okay, so we did this network thing, right? So you saw our page was loaded, but all this JavaScript was not loaded. It took time because we did this slow 3G. So what will happen when this user taps on something? It will not interact because this is not yet a Angular application. Once our JavaScript is loaded, then it bootstraps, then becomes an Angular application. Before that, just piece of paper, not paper. Okay, it's like that, right? So what happens when user taps here? What kind of problem will face? It will not work. It will not work as desired, right? So for this kind of problem, there is a library called pre-boot. Okay. So pre-boot, what happens is whatever we do before the bootstrapping of our application, so this library works for both Angular and React, but we have an Angular solution also. So what it does, whatever interactions we do before bootstrapping of our application, it replays all those items. Okay. Purpose library to help manage the transition state, all those things from server generated web view to client generated web view. So pre-boot helps us to replay all those events. You focused on some text box or all those things you did, right? So it replace all those things when Angular bootstraps, so that we won't have that problem, because we will expect to our application to do something, but our JavaScript is not loaded. Until our JavaScript is not loaded, those events will not be fired. If the events are not fired, those whatever the expected thing we were trying to do will not happen. Right? We will help in that. So see, this is a solution we can use to improve our application performance. It doesn't mean we will be using this pre-render for all our applications. Actually, you cannot pre-render authenticated routes, right? Because my dashboard screen will look different than yours or Shruti, right? Because let's say we created a banking side, right? We cannot rebuild our account data, right? Because all our account balance is different, right? So these kind of things are not suitable for mostly authenticated routes when we log in, and the data is user specific. Okay. So we should avoid, and I think we can't do that. Right? But if there are some data, let's say I have a landing page, I am showing some past performance of our stock mutual fund. So that is like maybe like last year, till last year we are showing. So that is static. Everywhere we'll do a build, we'll get the data. After you log in, you will be able to buy that mutual fund. That is a separate thing, right? So that we can avoid. But the first page, we can still improve our performance using the pre-render. We can do for login screens or sign up screens. We can do for one-time password link. All those pages which doesn't need a authentication. Public page, we can still use it to just improve our performance. Okay. And also we talked about app shell, right? So if we see we can't do anything else, then we can go for app shell just to show something. And or else whatever we saw for a client-side application, we see a white blank screen. Okay. We can avoid that using those technologies or including everything mixture based on the requirement. So the main point is it's not always okay. If I want to create an Angular application, just create application and run it, build it, post it. Or React application, create React app, build it, post it. We have to come up with some solutions if we have some other kind of problems, okay, and performance. Okay, all right. Any questions? Anyone? From remote, any questions? I'm feeling something like, was it so good you guys don't have a question, or was it so bad
You didn't understand anything, that's why no questions. So if no one has, anyone from remote, any questions? If no one has any question, then we'll just wrap it up, finish it up. Okay. Okay then. So thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.